Grimes pulled his torn coat around his shoulders and watched the sky turn dark gray. The wind was picking up speed and the temperature was dropping fast. He had lived on the streets for 15 years and he knew what a killer storm looked like. This one was going to be bad. The weather stations had been warning people for 3 days now. They called it the storm of the century. They told everyone to stay indoors, but had no indoors to stay in. He walked through the empty streets of old Chicago with his head down against the wind. The city had been abandoned 50 years ago after the climate collapse changed everything. Most people lived in the new dome cities now, protected from the wild weather that made the old world dangerous. But some people still lived out here in the ruins. People that the new world had forgotten. Had been a soldier once. He had served in the Space Defense Corps for 20 years before the accident that broke his back and his spirit. The military gave him a medal and a small pension that ran out within 2 years. After that came the drinking, then the hospitals, then the streets. Now he was just another ghost wandering through a dead city, trying to survive one more day. His usual shelter was a basement under an old shopping center on the west side. It had thick walls that blocked the wind and a working heating vent that leaked warm air from somewhere underground. But when arrived there tonight, he found it destroyed. The roof had collapsed sometime during the last storm, and now it was nothing but rubble and broken concrete. He stood there for a long moment, feeling the cold bite into his bones. Without shelter, he would die tonight. It was that simple. He turned and started walking again. There had to be somewhere else. There was always somewhere else. That was the first rule of survival. Never give up. Never stop moving. Never accept that this moment is your last. After an hour of searching, found an old warehouse near the frozen lake. The building was huge and empty and most of its windows were broken. But there was a small office in the back corner with solid walls and a door that still closed. It would have to do. Gathered whatever he could find that would burn. Old newspapers, broken wooden pallets, a chair with 3 legs. He built a small fire in a metal trash can and sat close to the flames, trying to warm his frozen hands. Outside, the blizzard arrived with a sound like a screaming animal. The wind hammered against the walls and snow poured through the broken windows in thick white sheets. Had never seen anything like it. The temperature dropped so fast that ice began forming on the inside of the walls. He fed more fuel to his little fire and pulled his coat over his head like a blanket. All he could do now was wait and hope. He must have fallen asleep at some point because a massive explosion woke him up. The whole building shook and jumped to his feet, his heart pounding. His first thought was that the roof was collapsing, but then he heard it again. Not an explosion, an impact. Something had crashed outside. Knew he should stay where he was. Going outside in the storm was suicide. But curiosity had always been his weakness. It was what made him volunteer for dangerous missions back in his military days. It was what got him into trouble more times than he could count. And it was what made him push open that door and step out into the howling white darkness. He could barely see 3 feet in front of his face. The snow was coming down so thick that it was like walking through a wall of white. But there was something out there, something big. He could see a dark shape against the snow, maybe 50 meters away. It was moving, or trying to move. Pushed forward, fighting against the wind with every step. As he got closer, the shape became clearer. It was not a crashed vehicle like he had expected. It was something alive, something impossible. The creature was at least 10 meters long from head to tail. It had scales that shimmered like dark metal even in the dim light. It had wings that were folded against its body, torn and damaged. It had a long neck and a head with horns and eyes that glowed with a faint golden light. Stopped and stared. He had seen pictures of these beings in the news feeds. Everyone had. They were called dragon people from a world on the other side of the galaxy. They were one of the most powerful species in the Galactic Confederation, and one of the proudest. The creature lifted its head and looked at. Its golden eyes were filled with pain and something else, something that looked almost like fear. When it spoke, its voice was rough and broken, like it was struggling to form human words. Please, it said. Shelter, need shelter, dying. Stood frozen in the snow. His mind was telling him to run. This was an alien, a dragon, a being that could probably kill him with a single breath. But his heart was telling him something different. His heart was seeing a wounded creature begging for help, and Grimes had never been able to walk away from someone in need. Not even when that someone was a 10-meter dragon from another world. He moved closer and held out his hand, not sure if the gesture meant anything to this alien. Follow me, he said. I have fire, I have shelter. It is not much, but it is warm. The dragon stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly, painfully, it began to move, led the way back to the warehouse, checking over his shoulder every few seconds to make sure the creature was still following. By the time they reached the small office, the dragon had shrunk somehow. Its body had compressed itself until it was only about 2 meters long, small enough to fit through the door. Did not ask how that was possible. He just held the door open and let the alien crawl inside. The dragon collapsed near the fire and lay there breathing heavily, closed the door and sat down on the other side of the flames. Outside, the blizzard continued to rage. Inside, a homeless man and a wounded dragon shared the warmth of a small fire and waited for the storm to pass. Thank you, the dragon whispered. Why did you help me? Thought about the question for a moment. Then he shrugged and fed another piece of wood to the fire. Because you asked, he said. Because you needed help. That is reason enough. The dragon closed its golden eyes and said nothing more, but could swear he saw something like wonder in its expression, as if kindness from a stranger was the most alien thing it had ever encountered. The fire crackled and popped as added another piece of broken wood to the flames. The dragon had been sleeping for several hours now, its massive body curled up in the corner of the small office like a giant cat. Watched it breathe, still not quite believing what he was seeing. He had lived through many strange things in his 52 years of life, but sharing a room with an alien dragon was definitely the strangest. When the creature finally woke up, its golden eyes found immediately. It studied him with an expression that was hard to read. There was confusion there, and curiosity, and something that might have been suspicion. You are still here, the dragon said. Its voice was stronger now, less broken. Where else would I go? Replied. Storm is still raging out there. The dragon lifted its head and seemed to listen to the wind howling outside. Then it looked back at. My name is. I am a scout in the 3rd Fleet of the Empire. My ship was damaged during an emergency jump near your solar system. The storm interfered with my systems and I crashed here. Nodded slowly. I am Grimes. I used to be a soldier. Now I am just a man trying to survive. Tilted her head, studying him more closely. You are a warrior then. That explains your courage. But tell me, Grimes, what is your position in your society? What clan do you serve? What status do you hold? Almost laughed at that. He looked down at his torn clothes and dirty hands. I do not have any status, he said. I do not serve anyone. I am what my people call homeless. I have no clan, no family, no position. I am nobody. Stared at him for a long moment, her golden eyes narrowing. That is not possible. Every being has a place in the order of things. Even the lowest servant has a master. Even the smallest worker has a function. How can you have nothing? Shrugged, it happens. People fall through the cracks. The world moves on and forgets about them. I am one of the forgotten ones. The dragon seemed deeply troubled by this. In society, such a thing would not be allowed. A being without status is considered worthless. They would be cast out or eliminated. Resources are not wasted on those who contribute nothing. That sounds harsh, said quietly. It is the way of strength, replied. The strong survive, the weak perish. This is the natural order. Thought about that for a while. He fed another piece of wood to the fire and watched the flames dance. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a small wrapped package. It was his emergency food supply. 2 protein bars and a bottle of water that he had been saving for the worst moments. He unwrapped one of the bars and broke it in half. Then he held out half of it toward. The dragon looked at the food and then at, "What are you doing?" she asked. Sharing said, "You need to eat. You are wounded and weak. This will help." "But this is your food, your resources. Why would you give them to me? I have no status. I cannot repay you. I have nothing to offer in return." Smiled a little. "I know what it feels like to be hungry. I know what it feels like to be alone and scared and desperate. I would not wish that feeling on anyone, not even a dragon from another world. Take the food, eat, get strong. That is payment enough for me." Took the food slowly, as if she expected some kind of trick. She ate it in one bite and then stared at with those golden eyes that seemed to see right through him. "I do not understand you," she said finally. "I have traveled to 100 worlds. I have met thousands of different species, but I have never met anyone like you." Shrugged again. "I am just a man doing what seems right. Nothing special about that." The blizzard continued to rage outside as the hours passed, and talked through the long, cold night. She told him about her world, a planet of mountains and fire where her people had ruled for 10,000 years. She told him about culture, where strength and status meant everything and weakness was considered shameful. She told him about the Galactic Confederation, the alliance of species that controlled most of the known galaxy. Listened and asked questions and tried to understand. In return, told her about his life. He told her about his years in the military, the battles he had fought, the friends he had lost. He told her about the accident that ended his career and the long, slow fall that came after. He told her about life on the streets, the daily struggle for food and shelter, the kindness of strangers and the cruelty of others. Listened with growing fascination, her eyes never leaving his face. "You have suffered much," she said when he finished. "Yet you show no bitterness. You help me without hesitation even though your own situation is desperate. How is this possible?" Thought about that question carefully. I have learned that holding on to anger only makes things harder. The world is not fair. Bad things happen to good people. Good things happen to bad people. You can spend your whole life being angry about it, or you can just keep moving forward. I choose to keep moving forward. Was silent for a long time. Then she said something that surprised. "I think I have been wrong about many things. My people believe that strength comes from power and status. But sitting here with you, I wonder if true strength comes from something else entirely." "What do you mean?" asked. "You have nothing by my people's standards," said slowly. "No power, no status, no resources, yet you survived where others would have died. You showed courage when you found me. You showed kindness when you shared your food. You showed wisdom in everything you have said tonight. If this is what weakness looks like, then perhaps strength is not what I thought it was." Smiled and fed the last piece of wood to the fire. The flames were getting lower now, but the worst of the storm seemed to be passing. He could see the first faint light of dawn through the cracks in the walls. "Maybe strength is just refusing to give up," he said quietly. "Maybe it is helping others even when you can barely help yourself. Maybe it is finding hope when everything seems hopeless." Nodded slowly. Her golden eyes reflected the dying firelight. "Perhaps," she said, "perhaps that is exactly what it is." The blizzard finally began to weaken on the second day. The wind was still strong and the snow was still falling, but the worst of the storm had passed, and had settled into a strange kind of routine. He would go out to search for fuel and food while she rested and recovered from her injuries. Her wounds were healing faster than expected. She told him that had strong regeneration abilities, but she still needed time to regain her full strength. On the afternoon of the second day, everything changed. Suddenly lifted her head and her golden eyes went wide with fear. Had never seen fear on her face before. It made his stomach tighten with worry. "What is wrong?" he asked. "They found me," whispered. "My distress signal, they tracked it here." "Who found you?" asked. "Your people. That is good news, right? They can take you home." Shook her head quickly. "Not my people. My enemies, the Legion. They have been hunting me for 3 cycles. I thought I had escaped them when I made the emergency jump, but they must have followed my signal." Frowned. "Why are they hunting you? What did you do?" was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke in a low voice, as if she was afraid someone might hear. I discovered something I was not supposed to discover: corruption at the highest levels of our government. Members of the High Council have been selling weapons to hostile species. They have been starting wars for profit. Millions of beings have died because of their greed. I found evidence of their crimes and I fled with it. If I can reach the Council of Elders, I can expose the traitors and save countless lives. But the corrupt council members sent the Legion to stop me. Understood now. You are not a criminal. You are trying to do the right thing, and powerful people want to silence you. Yes, said. And now they are here. I can sense their ships entering the atmosphere. 3 vessels at least. That means 30 warriors or more. I cannot fight them in my current condition. They will capture me and destroy the evidence, and everything will have been for nothing. Stood up and walked to the window. He could not see anything through the snow, but he believed. She had no reason to lie. He turned back to face her. Then we need to move, he said. I know this city better than anyone. I know places they will never find. Underground tunnels that run for miles. Hidden shelters that only the homeless know about. If we can stay ahead of them until you recover, maybe we can find a way out of this. Stared at him. You would help me. You would risk your life for me. These warriors will kill anyone who stands between them and their target. If they find you with me, they will not show mercy. Smiled a little. I have been risking my life every day for 15 years just trying to survive. What is one more risk? Besides, you said millions of lives depend on you reaching those elders. How can I just walk away from that? The dragon seemed unable to speak for a moment. Then she lowered her head in a gesture that looked almost like a bow. You honor me, Grimes. I will not forget this. They moved quickly after that. Shrunk herself down to human size again, a skill that still amazed no matter how many times he saw it. She wrapped herself in an old tarp to hide her scales from anyone who might be watching, then led her out into the frozen city. The old subway tunnels were their best option. Had spent many winters down there, sheltering from the cold with other homeless people. The tunnels went on forever, connecting different parts of the city in a maze that only the locals understood. No outsider could navigate them without getting lost. They had been underground for about 2 hours when heard the first sounds of pursuit. Heavy footsteps echoing through the tunnels, voices speaking a harsh language he did not recognize. The Legion had found their trail somehow. This way, whispered. He pulled down a side passage that looked like a dead end, but actually connected to a larger tunnel through a hidden gap in the wall. They squeezed through and kept moving. The hunters were fast and determined, but was faster. He knew every trick, every shortcut, every hidden path. When the warriors went left, he went right. When they searched one tunnel, he led through another. He collapsed a weak section of ceiling behind them, blocking one pursuit route. He led a group of hunters into a flooded section where the ice-cold water slowed them down while he escaped through a maintenance shaft. How do you know all of this? Asked as they rested in a small dry chamber deep underground. 15 years of surviving, said simply. You learn the land or you die. These tunnels have saved my life more times than I can count. Now they will save yours too. Shook her head in wonder. My people have technology that can track targets across star systems. We have weapons that can destroy cities. But none of that matters down here. Down here, your knowledge is more powerful than all our technology combined. Shrugged, different worlds need different skills. Your hunters might be strong in space, but this is my world. Down here, I am the dangerous one. They heard more footsteps approaching, motioned for silence and led deeper into the darkness. The hunt was not over yet, but was not worried. He had spent 15 years learning how to disappear. A few alien warriors were not going to catch him that easily. The game of cat and mouse continued through the night, used every trick he knew. He set traps using debris and ice. He led hunters into dead ends where the walls collapsed on them. He used the echoes of the tunnels to create confusion, making it sound like they were in multiple places at once. By morning, the hunting party had lost half its members to accidents and injuries. But the hunters kept coming, and knew they could not run forever. The old subway station had been home for 2 winters before he found the basement shelter that eventually collapsed. It was a large open space with multiple exits and good sight lines in every direction. It was also where many of the city's homeless population gathered during the worst weather. When led into the station, they found nearly 40 people huddled around small fires and makeshift shelters. The other homeless people looked up when appeared. Many of them knew him. He had shared food with some of them during hard times. He had helped others find shelter or medicine when they needed it. He was not a leader among them, but he was respected. He was one of them. A thin man with a gray beard stood up and walked over. His name was Pete, and he had been living on the streets even longer than. "What is going on?" Pete asked. "We heard strange noises in the tunnels all night. Sounds like an army marching around down there." Looked at and then back at Pete. "I need your help," he said. "All of you. I know I have no right to ask, but this is important. More important than anything I have ever asked before." The other homeless people gathered around, curious and concerned, took a deep breath and began to explain. He told them about and who she was. He told them about the hunters and why they were chasing her. He told them about the evidence she carried and the millions of lives that depended on her survival. When he finished, the station was silent. Then Pete spoke up. "You are asking us to fight alien warriors, trained killers with weapons we cannot even understand. Most of us can barely fight off a cold." "I know," said. "I know it sounds crazy, but I have seen these hunters. They are strong, yes. They have technology, yes. But they do not know this city. They do not know these tunnels. They are not used to our weather or our world. We have advantages they cannot match." A woman named Cole stepped forward. She was younger than most of the others, maybe 35, with hard eyes that had seen too much pain. "Saved my life 2 years ago," she said. "Shared his food with me when I was starving. Showed me how to survive my first winter out here. If he says this is important, I believe him." Other voices joined in, had helped many of them over the years, small kindnesses that he had forgotten but they had not, a blanket shared on a cold night, a warning about dangerous areas, a kind word when no one else would speak to them. One by one, the homeless people of the old subway station agreed to help. Felt something warm in his chest. He had spent so many years feeling worthless, feeling forgotten, feeling like he did not matter. But here were 40 people willing to risk their lives because he asked them to. Maybe he had more value than he realized. They spent the next few hours preparing, knew every inch of these tunnels, and he used that knowledge to create a battle plan. They set traps at key points. They prepared ambush positions. They gathered weapons from the debris around them. Broken pipes, sharp pieces of metal, heavy chains, nothing fancy but deadly enough in the right hands. Watched the preparations with amazement. "These people have nothing," she said quietly too. "They are hungry and cold and forgotten by their own society. Yet they are willing to fight and die for a stranger from another world. I do not understand." Smiled. "They are not fighting for you," he said. "They are fighting for each other. They are fighting because someone finally asked them to matter. They are fighting because for once they can make a difference. That is worth more than food or warmth or shelter." The hunters came an hour later. They had finally tracked into the subway station. There were 15 of them left, led by a massive warrior named. He was nearly 3 meters tall even in his compressed form, with scales as black as night and eyes that burned with cold fury. "Surrender," the fugitive called out. "Surrender her now and we will let you pathetic creatures live. Resist and you will all die screaming." Stepped forward, standing between the hunters and his people. He was small and thin and wearing torn clothes. He looked like nothing compared to the armored alien warriors facing him, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "She is under our protection now. You want her, you go through us." Laughed a harsh, cruel sound through you. You are nothing. You are less than nothing. You are insects beneath our feet. Then come step on us, said, see what happens. The battle that followed was brutal and chaotic. The hunters were stronger and faster and better armed than the homeless fighters. But the humans knew the terrain. They knew how to fight dirty. They knew how to work together in ways the hunters had never seen. Led a group that collapsed a ceiling section on 3 hunters, burying them in rubble. Pete and his team used chains and ropes to tangle another group, pulling them off their feet and swarming them with improvised weapons. Others threw debris from above, creating confusion and blocking sight lines. Faced directly, the massive hunter was toying with him at first, amused by this tiny human who dared to challenge him, but was not trying to win through strength. He was fighting like a street survivor. He threw dirt in his eyes. He used the environment to create obstacles. He took hits that would have killed a lesser man and kept coming back. The fight went on for what felt like hours, was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His ribs were cracked. One arm hung uselessly at his side, but he refused to fall. Every time knocked him down, he got back up. Why will you not stay down? Roared in frustration. You are broken. You are defeated. Why do you keep fighting? Spat blood and smiled through swollen lips. Because that is what humans do, he said. We keep fighting. We never give up. We never surrender. No matter how broken we are, no matter how hopeless things seem, we keep going. That is our strength. That is what makes us dangerous. He lunged forward one more time. This time, instead of trying to hurt, he grabbed onto the hunter's weapon and held on with everything he had. The other homeless fighters saw their chance and swarmed the distracted warrior from all sides. Chains wrapped around his limbs. Pipes struck his head. Weight bore him down. When it was over, lay defeated on the cold stone floor. Not killed by superior technology or overwhelming force, but brought down by 40 forgotten humans who refused to give up. Stood among the survivors, her golden eyes filled with tears. She had fought alongside them, the first time she had ever stood with those she would have once considered beneath her. She looked at, broken and bleeding but still standing. I understand now, she whispered. I finally understand what makes your species special. The sun rose over the frozen city for the first time in 4 days. The blizzard was finally over. The sky was clear and blue and the snow sparkled like diamonds in the morning light. Sat on an old bench outside the subway station, watching the sunrise with eyes that struggled to stay open. His wounds had been bandaged by the others using whatever clean cloth they could find. He was in bad shape, but he was alive. They were all alive. Sat beside him, her scales gleaming in the sunlight. She had fully healed now, her regeneration working faster than any human medicine could match. But she had not left side since the battle ended. Help is coming, she said quietly. Before the hunters found us, I managed to send a secondary signal on a hidden frequency. My allies received it. They are on their way. Your allies asked. Other who oppose the corrupt council explained. There are many of us. We have been gathering evidence and building support for years. Your help has given us the chance we needed. When my allies arrive, they will take the evidence I carry to the Council of Elders. The traitors will be exposed. Justice will finally be served. Nodded slowly. That is good. Millions of lives, you said. Millions of lives saved. Yes, because of you. Because of your people, the forgotten ones who chose to fight for a stranger. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Around them, the other homeless survivors were tending to their wounded and sharing what little food they had. The battle had cost them. Several people were badly hurt, and one old man named Carl had not survived his injuries. They had buried him in the snow with as much dignity as they could manage, had said a few words over the grave. It was not much, but it was something. A sound broke the silence, a deep humming that grew louder and louder until the air itself seemed to vibrate. Looked up and saw a ship descending from the sky. It was beautiful in a way that human ships never were. all smooth curves and flowing lines, like something grown rather than built. It landed gently in the open area near the station, barely disturbing the snow beneath it. A ramp extended from the ship and several walked out. They were dressed differently than the hunters. Their scales were various colors, and they carried themselves with a formal dignity that spoke of high status. The leader was an older female with silver scales and wise eyes. Stood and walked forward to meet them. The two exchanged words in their own language for several minutes, then turned and gestured for to join them. "This is Elder Myra," said. "She leads the resistance against the corrupt council. I have told her everything that happened here. She wishes to speak with you." Elder Myra looked at with an expression that was hard to read. She studied his torn clothes, his bandaged wounds, his tired face. When she spoke, her voice was deep and formal. "Tells me that you saved her life, that you sheltered her when she was dying, that you led her through danger and fought beside her against overwhelming odds. She tells me that you did all of this knowing you might die. Is this true?" Shrugged, uncomfortable with the attention. "I just did what seemed right. Anyone would have done the same." "No," Elder Myra said firmly. "Anyone would not have done the same. I have traveled to many worlds and met many species. Most beings would have turned away from a wounded stranger in a storm. Most would have surrendered when faced with impossible odds. What you did is rare and precious. It deserves recognition." She gestured, and one of her attendants stepped forward carrying a small box. Inside was a medallion made of some metal that did not recognize. It glowed with a soft inner light. "This is the Star of Compassion," Elder Myra said. "It is the highest honor our people can give to an outsider. It has not been awarded in over 1,000 years. You have earned it, Grimes." Took the medallion carefully, not sure what to say. "Thank you," he managed, "but I did not do this alone. My people fought beside me. They deserve recognition too." Elder Myra nodded, "Told me about them as well. The forgotten ones, the outcasts of your society. She says they are examples of everything that is best about your species. She has requested permission to stay on your world as an ambassador. She wants to help these people who helped her." Looked at with surprise, the dragon smiled at him with those golden eyes. "You showed me what true strength looks like," said. "You showed me that compassion is not weakness. You showed me that the measure of a being is not their status or power but their heart. I want to learn more from your people. I want to help them the way they helped me." The negotiations that followed went late into the day. Elder Myra offered anything he wanted: wealth beyond imagination, a home on any world in the Confederation, status and power that would make him one of the most important humans in the galaxy. Listened to all of it, then he made his request. "I do not want wealth or status," he said. "I want help for my people, not just the ones who fought beside me, but all of them, all the forgotten ones across this world. Build them shelters, give them food and medicine, help them find their place again. That is all I want." Elder Myra stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled, the first smile had seen from her. "It will be done," she said. "You are a remarkable being, Grimes. Your species continues to surprise us." The story spread quickly after that. A Galactic Confederation broadcast carried the tale across 1,000 worlds. The story of how a homeless human survived the worst blizzard in history and then saved a dragon who came begging for shelter. The story of how forgotten outcasts defeated elite warriors through courage and determination. The story of how one man asked for nothing for himself, but everything for his people. Months later, stood on the same spot where he had first found in the snow, but everything was different now. The old warehouse was gone, replaced by a shelter that could house hundreds of people. Similar shelters were being built across the planet, funded by the Galactic Confederation and overseen by Ambassador. Was different too. He was still a simple man with no interest in power or status, but he was no longer forgotten. He was no longer alone. Walked up beside him and together, They watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and purple. "Do you ever regret it?" asked. "You could have had anything: wealth, power, a palace on any world you chose. Instead, you chose to stay here and help your people." Smiled, "This is my home. These are my people. What more could I possibly need?" Nodded, understanding in her golden eyes. "That is what makes you human," she said. "That is what makes your species the most remarkable in the galaxy." They stood together as the stars came out, a homeless man and a dragon, partners in building a better world. The storm that had brought them together was long gone, but the warmth they had found in that small warehouse had grown into something that would change history. And somewhere out among those distant stars, beings of 1,000 different species told the story of Grimes, the man who had nothing and gave everything, the human who taught the galaxy what true strength really meant.